Velocity Kinetics has been made in association with Road Race Parts. Top quality, best prices, no compromise. Head to roadraceparts.com to get parts for your racing vehicles now.
Hello and welcome to a very new episode of Velocity Kinetics. It's been quite a long time since we've had a chance to do this, mostly because of work and just generally being busy, which comes first before these. Now, there's been a lot of developments going on in Formula 1 since last time we did this. Biggest one I want to discuss is Honda, Formula 1. Their engine is not very good, shall we put it. The way their engine is going at the moment is basically what most people expected last year to be like. Constantly braking, turbos blowing, energy not being stored properly, too fuel thirsty. It's not gone particularly well. They've got a few novel ideas on it. Last I heard, they had a radiator running down the top of the engine rather than the conventional in the side pods. The clutch is actually in the engine. The turbo is mounted separately, but not like Mercedes where it's either end of the engine. It's all mounted separately, but doesn't make a lot of sense. Excuse me. Now, Honda have their own way of doing things. Obviously it's a Japanese company. The Japanese have a very unique way of doing things. Sometimes that's for the good, sometimes it's for the bad. If you look at companies like Subaru, Mitsubishi, they're very powerful, very well-known companies and make fantastic products. Particularly things like the Lancer Evolution from Mitsubishi and the Impreza WX vehicles from Subaru, as well as and then there are other manufacturers like Lexus who have had the LFA, and then Toyota obviously had their own foray into Formula 1. Now, losing twos. Anyway, the way the Japanese tend to work, in times of crisis, their methods aren't always very good. If you've ever read a book by Michael Crichton called Rising Sun, it's about a guy who has to investigate a murder at a Japanese company in LA. Now, Michael Crichton, the same guy behind Jurassic Park and The Lost World, Prey, State of Fear, most of his books have got some sort of science behind them, or at the very least, if they're not science related like Rising Sun isn't, there's still a lot of truth behind it. Like, it was technically possible in Jurassic Park, it came from that they were able to clone a piece of DNA from a dinosaur, so why not be able to grow the entire DNA strand and then create the dinosaur? So there's been a lot of research going into Rising Sun to find out what it is. Now, in that book, when there's been this murder happen, the Japanese in that book are faxing things back and forth between their head offices. I think it's in Tokyo, and it's just taking a lot of time, very slow. But in the end, they end up framing one of their own, basically. And it's not a spoiler because that book's been out since about 1992. But it's also a point that Alan McNish has raised as well. It's the way it's also came out when I've read Rising Sun. I've read it about 3-4 times. Japanese, when they say I understand there's a problem, they understand there's a problem, but it doesn't mean that they understand the importance of it. Now, McLaren have said that it can help people. We're not going to get cross, but you've got our engineers at your disposal. Which indicates to me we're cross. Let us help. Now, it's a very Japanese corporate way of doing things, so it's not going to be changed overnight. It's going to be very difficult for them to admit that it's got to be that they're going to need the help. Now, Honda have not got as wide a reach as they used to in motorsport, because they used to be everywhere. At present, they're in British touring cars, and I think it's pretty much the only other place they're in, apart from maybe motorbikes. That's not really relevant to Formula 1. So it's not really anything that they can turn around very fast. Now, what the Honda used to do, they used to have a Honda Nippon, Formula Nippon vehicle, which is a sort of Japanese version of Formula 3000. They basically, when they used to be in F1 previous and testing was limited, they used to ram one of the F1 engines in the back of those cars, pound it around Suzuka all day, which, fair play to it at the time, because that was within the rules, that was possible. If there was a way to do it now, I suggest that they should look into cramming that engine into another vehicle and just running the testing mileage off it, or if nothing else, put it on the dyno and have it on the dyno all day long, if they're not already. Now, McLaren have got a lot of ability to help. McLaren have got great engineering expertise, and they could potentially help Honda out of the stink they find themselves in. But McLaren, I think, need to focus and getting the aerodynamics right on their car. Now, it's a very good chassis they've got, because in actual fact, even though they've got an engine disadvantage with the Honda at the moment, but compared to where Mercedes, they're about level pegging, so in actual fact, it's a very good chassis they've got underneath them. What I think they should focus on doing is, as I understand it, the 2016 rules are going to remain fairly similar. They should spend their time making sure the car is aerodynamically superior. So they need to make it like an RB9, RB10. Is it RB9, RB10? No, RB7, RB8, I beg your pardon. The Red Bulls that Vettel won his championships with, basically need it to be that aerodynamically dominant vehicle. So when Honda then catch up, then McLaren will be laughing. Now, they've got Alonso and they've got Button to get the job done. They are the two best guys in the business. Unfortunately, as per usual McLaren and Ron Dennis's method of doing things, I don't really like Jenson Button, is basically what if push comes to shove, I think that's really what he'd say. I don't want Jenson Button in my team. But anyway, that's wrong. He's a stupid idiot for saying so, but not for saying so, but for having that mentality. But anyway, back on topic. It's not entirely the driver's fault. We obviously we don't have access to data, so we don't know how hard and how harsh they're putting the throttle on, or how harshly they're doing the down changes, etc. I'm sure we'd hear it over the radio. Now, there's no overnight fix for Honda. They keep saying that they'll be able to get the horsepower deficit up. I'm not sure what sort of horsepower deficit they're talking though, but I think what they need is more electrical power than they've got engine power. Although more power from the combustion unit will be fine. I do think they need to stop trying to change, just trying to be different for being different. A bit like the Caterham last year, different for being different. No real advantage to it. Now, like I say, it's not going to happen overnight. We'll see we'll just have to ride it out and see what happens. But like I say, we've got at least anyone who watches McLaren. It's actually a very good looking car. Williams is the only car that looks better than McLaren is the second best looking car on the grid. Well, in its current livery. Beforehand it wasn't. But anyway, it's not something that can happen overnight. We've got the confidence to know that we've got Alonso and Button to pull the McLaren forwards. Yes, I was expecting McLaren to have had more points. I didn't realise they dropped the ball in such a spectacular style, but they've been dealt the hand they've been dealt with. They're at least doing what they can to push on. Now, following on from Honda, there's something else I want to discuss. I need to quote Agent Washington from Red vs Blue here. So I'm going to insert the clip from Red vs Blue Season 9 here.
Is with this guy.
It kind of sums up what I think about Bernie Ecclestone, really. The whole point is the rest of this is to discuss Bernie Ecclestone. Now, as it stands at the moment, obviously he's the head honcho. He owns most of Formula 1 between him and CVC. Now he's looking to try and buy more of F1 so he can then call more of the shots. Now, what is eternally pissing me off with him at the moment? Last year he was, towards the start of last year was, we need the small teams, we need the small teams, we need more small teams. Okay, yeah. Of course we do, we need the privateer teams. We need teams like Williams. Williams came in through privateering. Tyrrell came in through privateering. It needs to happen. Minardi, Jordan, Lola, to name a few of the long gone teams. Heck, even Stewart Grand Prix, which is now Red Bull, but even so, it started privateer team Stewart Grand Prix. It boggles my mind how he then turns around and goes, basically makes the point of, I don't want these smaller teams in Formula 1. If you haven't got the money, get out. I'm like, well, hang on a minute. You wouldn't be making the same point about Williams. It's only because Williams have got the championship behind him that he doesn't tag them in that. Likewise, at Force India have got some success behind them when they were Jordan, and they had a couple of podiums, not as many as they probably could have and should have, but nonetheless they've not done too bad of a job. Toro Rosso have even got a win, so it's some of these smaller teams are actually doing fantastic jobs, particularly Williams. We're considering where Williams are on the grid most of the time. I say they linger about 5th, 6th. It's the lowest I'd say on average throughout the whole season. Lowest on average, that is. but mostly sort of somewhere between third and fifth, aside from Silverstone where they were in the lead. That was my because I love Williams, but just bananas that he turns around 1 minute saying we need these teams, so he wants to encourage teams like Haas into the sport. He wouldn't mind more proper manufacturers in the sport. So if it pays away for something like Toyota or Ford or someone to come in, he's not going to be too bothered. But then to turn around and say, I don't really think these small teams should be in. I'm not a massive fan of them. It's ridiculous. Absolutely goddamn ridiculous. And particularly, now this is a two-way fault. He wouldn't change his start time for the Suzuka Grand Prix last year. The same one that Jules Bianchi has succumbed to his injuries from, which is it's a very black day for everyone, black week, regardless of what other personal things that people are going through. We've got to pay our respects to Jules. I can't really put into words what I think. I think it's summed up best if you listen to the Queen's song "No One But You," which is written by Brian May, performed by obviously Brian May, Roger Taylor, and John Deacon, which is meant to be a tribute to Freddie Mercury. It's very audible. It's a tribute to Freddie Mercury, but it's also due just to people who've gone before their time. If you just listen to that song, No One But You, or you may also find Only the Good Die Young. It sums it up really, which is a shame. But some of that is on Bernie's sake because he wouldn't change the race time. Some of it is also because then if they I appreciate that if they move the race time, all the tickets that they sold, people would be clamouring for their money back. So appreciate he was caught between a rock and a hard place on that one, but my book he cocked up fantastically, like the pleb he sometimes is. I can't go on too much about Bernie Ecclestone because one, I'll probably end up getting sued for libel, and two, well, it doesn't take long for it to dissolve into F this and F that, and just fantastic combinations of words that if they were valid on a Scrabble board, you'd be in for a game-winning score, but not really very constructive. But Bernie, you've got to grab hold of the sport and stop changing your mind so much. Alternatively, relinquish control. Pass it on to someone else. That's all that's got to be done. There's another point I just want to go on to. It'll be the last point I make this video. It's basically about the rules in Formula 1. The turbo engines were brought in, save fuel, and be more road relevant because road cars are going smaller and turbocharged, which is not a bad thing. You've got things like the Prius and the Insight that are hybrid as well. I think Toyota offer it up and down their entire range. Lexus, which is just an up-brand Toyota, offer up and down their range. Volvo have gone that direction. Volvo aren't making anything big. They're 2 litre and 4 cylinders. Ford are heading a similar direction. They've got the 1 litre 3-cylinder EcoBoost. I'm sure Nissan and Vauxhall and generally Ford, General Motors are all going to be going that direction. I know Fiat have gone that direction because they've got the Twin Air, which is a 2-cylinder engine. Now, on the one hand, on the one hand, yes, I agree. I miss the scream of the V10s. I like the V8s. I miss the scream of the V10s, particularly the Honda V10. But we've got to move. Time has to go on. We've got to be road relevant. We've got to show what road car technology can do. It's a bit like what the McLaren P1, the Porsche 918, the Ferrari LaFerrari, hey, even the Koenigsegg Regera. I'm going to do a separate video on it. It's a cork of a vehicle. Even the Koenigsegg Regera. These hybrid vehicles that are just showing, it doesn't have to be boring. It don't have to be a line hybrid with Priuses and other what you could call snot rag vehicles. It's just, they're fun, interesting, and give them a good name. Now, people want to change the rules, make the cars hard to drive. So maybe. What I think we need to do, we need to have a minimum amount of torque. Because torque is what makes you spin your wheels. Formula 1 cars are high on power, but for their power they're quite low on torque. Now with these V6s, because they've got the turbos and the electric units, they're a little more twitchy, which is a good thing, but then a lot of drivers aren't pushing to the full limit. What I think we need to do, I like the idea that it's gone down from 150 kilograms to 100 kilograms of fuel per race. I think we need to maybe up it again to about 115, so we're still less than what we were with the V8s, but a little bit more so they can run them harder and max out. Now, what I think we ought to look into, the V6s, people go on about the noise, they sound better on board than they do off board, let's be honest, there's not a lot we can do about that. And there's not a lot we can do aside from decreasing turbo pressure and putting more emphasis on combustion power than electric power. Now, what we should do, or could do, have a separate rule for the engines. I apologise, I'm going a bit slow here. I'm just trying to word it all because mouth is going a little bit faster than the brain, or the brain's going a bit faster than the mouth can move. Basically, what we need to propose is a rule that your engine can only put out X amount of horsepower. It's got to be boosted by electric power, which puts out a maximum of X horsepower. So you've got to put out a minimum horsepower from either unit. So, for instance, say let's put the Formula 1 horsepower at 800 horsepower. That's a hell of a lot. There's no rules on what the engine can be. So, if you want to make a V14 2-litre quad turbo, whatever you want to make, you can do whether you want to go. So you could go 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, straight 8, V8, W8, W10, 12, V10, 12, 16, 14, whatever. Overall, whatever the hell you want to make, and it can be turbocharged, supercharged. Can't be any more than twin turbo. So you can go maximum twin turbo, twin supercharged that is, or turbocharged, supercharged, supercharged. Whatever you want to do, and then you've got to have your electric KERS unit on there as well. Now, it would be something along the lines of your electric unit has got to put out a minimum of, say, 200 horsepower. So that means your petrol unit can only put out a maximum of 600, which works quite well, I think, because then you've got a combination of, do you go for all the electric and have the power available from 0 revs and have the top off of the electric, or do you go for pure grunt, as much grunt as you're allowed, and try and have more grunt on the straight line, etc. Now, advantages and disadvantages to this, because for example, if you went with 2 turbos, you're going to have turbo lag, even though they're modern electronics and turbos that can counter the lag. You go with a supercharger, which works from 0 revs, and have that pull you along. Then supercharger cuts off, go to a turbo. The reason why I said no more than twin turbo, because then you can't have different turbos going through different bits of the range, like a triple turbo, for example. Typical twin turbo is 1 unit for each bank of cylinders. What we would be proposing is, if it's going to be twin turbo, it's got to be sequential. So you've got to have it for X revs to then the second turbo comes in. That probably would be how I'd suggest it. So you've got 2 different things, but then after it hits a certain rev, it's got to swap over to the other thing, which is always a good thing. But then what you're going to have is your electric unit. Now it's all going to be rear wheel drive. You're still going to have 7 to 8 gears. Anything more that's getting ridiculous. Can't decide whether to go as low as 6, because some engines would suit only 6 gears versus having more for acceleration. But then, as I say, it depends on what you're going to do. If you're going to go with more electric power and you want more gears for a bit more torque control, but then less throttle control, it'd still be a twin clutch system. And I agree with the new rules that you've got to set it yourself, so no computer help in setting the clutch. But like I say, other than that, free rein on the engines. Maximum power 800. Minimum from the electric unit 200. Not 1,000 horsepower overall. That's starting to get a bit silly. Aerodynamics wise, I can't decide. I like the look of the wider vehicles, like I think FW27, 26, that sort of wideness, ground effect basically. But then I've grown to like these newer. Still not a massive fan, I must say. I'm not a massive fan of the wide front ring and the narrow rear wing, but I've grown to like them. We can live with it. There have certainly been worse looking Formula 1 cars throughout history. I think there needs to be some sort of limitations. Now, I want to bring back pure engineering. This is why I say you can go for whatever engine you want, because then you've got virtually limited chassis. No blowing the diffuser. I know that's a great area that can be exploited, and fantastic amounts of downforce and things can be found there, but not for me. I never liked it, not a massive fan of it. I know Williams used to pioneer it back in the 80s, but don't care, don't like it. what they should do, they're obviously Formula 1's toying with going to a larger wheel diameter to make it more representative for road cars, because 13 inch at the time, when they decided the hub size, that was about the average size of a tyre in a road vehicle, which made sense then, but doesn't anymore, so wouldn't go all the way up to 18, I'd say maybe about 15, so slight increase there. What would try and do is somehow combine ground effect with the existing aerodynamics, if that makes sense. So somehow widen the cars out a little bit to get more downforce on them. Still keep the slick tyres, because then you can go faster and push harder. It's sort of trying to decide where you want to, how far you want to push it really. And still keep DRS. I've been sold on it. It's better for the sport. Not a massive fan on refuelling. Maybe if I was to bring refuelling back, I'd sort of come back with a. Can't think what it is, how to put it. Limit the number of stops you can do a race for fuel, so you can either do 1 or 2 stops. So that means you can have a smaller fuel tank fitted, fine. If you're going to do that, you're going to then have to have the penalty of extra batteries in your car for more electric. That's probably what I would do, so I'd offset it with, okay, that's fine, you're going to run, but then you've got to produce more power from your electric. Not have this constant, splash and dash nature, although yes, it did create for some fantastic races, but then thinking about it, most of the overtaking happened in the pit stops. That was about it. But yeah, I just want to sort of put some of those rule changes I think of out there. But I'll have to cut that off there because I've got other things to get doing today. Now, just on a personal note, for other projects, I do apologise if these videos hardly get watched by anyone, I doubt. But if people are watching them, I do apologise. If you're reading the Velocity Kinetics blog, we apologise for lack of content. We've got things to do. The thing that Russ and I always said from day one on these blogs that we do, work comes first. And then our own relaxing comes first as well. Well, comes second after work, obviously, but comes before this. So we've got our own to-do lists, we've got our own lives to live. Now, I'll try and get some more out of these out as soon as possible. I'm also looking to starting a technology blog with another friend. Basically, sort of Linux computing and also looking into how some technology doesn't affect disabled users, in the sense that it's not always designed for them, not got them in mind. And also, just because my friend is disabled, it's also just looking into the possibility of, just looking into how disabled people have to deal with their lives on a daily basis. But yes, we'll try and get some more stuff out as soon as we can. Remember to follow Russ and I on Twitter, CWhite90999 for me, and at Road Race Parts for Russ. At this point, I would normally plug Road Race Parts to tell you where to get all your racing parts from, but it doesn't feel appropriate. Instead, based on the dark tone of some of the earlier video about Jules Bianchi, I don't think it'd be appropriate. So, hashtag JB17, Jules Bianchi, ciao Bianchi. God bless you wherever you are in the great racetrack in the sky.